Afternoon, good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here at Shiloh High School with you guys. My name is Audrey Bell Kearney, and I am the founder and CEO of Noise Media Network. I'm also an entrepreneur, been one for 24 years, longer than you've been on this earth. I have one daughter and I have one granddaughter, and I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited to Miss Easterland and Mr. Johnson for inviting me out to share my story with you guys, and also to answer any questions that you may have about entrepreneurship and media and podcasting. So I podcast 4 days a week live. I host a show called Good Morning Gwinnett, and we talk about news. We play music on the show. I do the horoscopes in the morning time, just to give people a chance to wake up in the morning time. I also host another show called Talk Business with Audrey, where I interview other entrepreneurs around the world about their businesses and how they got started. I'm in the process right now of launching 2 more podcasts. One is called BUILT, which stands for Blacks United in Technology, and also Popcorns and Politics. So as you can imagine, that one is about politics. I started out as an inventor. I invented the first plus-size fashion doll. So if you think about Barbie, how skinny Barbie is, well, my dolls were twice the size of Barbie. They were the same height she was, but they were twice her size. And I was working in pharmaceutical when I got that idea, and I hated my job. I hated all my jobs. I love the people, but I hated the jobs. And so when I got the idea for the doll company, I had to find someone to actually manufacture that doll for me. So I had to take the idea out of my head for this doll. I had to find somebody to sketch it out for me. Then I had to find somebody to mold it out for me. And then I had to find somebody to actually manufacture it. So that was a process by itself. I call that my first real business. I sold Avon before. I've never sold Mary Kay. There are a lot of Mary Kay entrepreneurs out there, but I've never done that. But I did Avon and some other things. But the doll company, I call that my real company, because I really had to learn how to take an idea that was in my head and turn it into a product. And I needed other people to help me do that. So I had a partner, her name is Georgette, and she was a doll collector. Now, let me tell y'all, when I told Georgette about the idea for the doll, she said to me, I just want to know, can I be the vice president? I was like, yeah, sure. She told me to come to her house that day. When I got to her house, she has just bought a doll that cost $250. And I was like, are you crazy? I was like, what does the doll do? And she's like, nothing. It was a collectible doll. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be rich. That's what I thought, right? I thought we were going to be rich when we invented these dolls. And we did okay. We did okay for about 5 years. And Georgette's husband actually worked in television, and his company, which was Fox TV, moved him to Texas. So they moved to Texas. I was living in Jersey at the time, and so the company kind of dissolved at that point because we were partners, and when she moved, the partnership kind of broke up. So when you're thinking about having a business, you want to know, if you're going to have a partner, everybody needs to know their role in that business. She was my partner. She was the creative side. I was the business side. I was the person that did all the marketing and the PR and all that kind of stuff. And she was the person that dressed the dolls up. She changed their hair colors. She designed their outfits. She handled all the shipping from China, because once I got the idea out of my head, we sent the wax to China, and China sent us back a vinyl doll. And so she handled the shipping of the dolls. I handled all the business side of the doll company, which was the marketing and the sales and things like that. When that company dissolved in 2000 and I think it was 2005, I started writing books. So to date I've written about 8 books, and I started writing books because people started asking me, well, how do you start a business? And I was like, well, dang, I can't talk to that many people all the time. Well, maybe I'll write a book. So I wrote a book about how to start a business. It's called The Ultimate Entrepreneur. It's on Amazon.com. And then people started asking me, well, how do you write a book? And I was like, dang, I can't talk to that many people. So I wrote a book about how to write a book. And so I wrote that book, and then I just kept writing books. So, and the funny thing is, I don't consider myself a writer. I consider myself an entrepreneur who is a trainer, and not really an innovator, I don't think, but definitely a trainer. So instead of me trying to talk to so many people one-on-one, when you put it in a book, at that time, when you put it in a book, that was a good way to reach a lot of people at once. Now I podcast, I reach even more people. I reach millions around the world because of the podcasting and my streaming TV. So right now I have a channel on. If you got a Roku, anybody got a Roku at home? A Fire Stick, Amazon Fire Stick? If you go to there and you pull up Noise Media Network on your Fire Stick or your Roku, Apple TV, anybody got Apple TV? If you pull up Noise Media Network on any of those devices, you'll see that logo pop up, and you'll see my channel. So that's my channel. So now I get to reach millions and millions more people because I have this TV network and I have this podcast network and I write these books. But it's all the things that I love. And so if you're thinking about doing anything, and I know you guys are pretty young right now, you may be thinking, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what this lady's talking about. I'm just here because they told me to be here. But if that's not you and you say, you know what, I do some banging nails. I met a young lady, she killed the nail game. And she was like, I need to start a business. I was, there's a little guy, his name is Christian Jones. They call him Christian the Truth Jones. He's a freshman in high school. I think he goes to Archer because that's where he lives. But I met him when he was 11 years old. We were speaking at a conference together. And I'm looking at this little kid, like this little kid talking about making millions of dollars. He was on the stage with me. So everybody's looking at him like he's 11. He is a stock market genius. He's 14. So I was at his house this past summer, and they live in Lawrenceville by me. And his mom said to me, every year he does this thing called Truth Playmakers, where he invite his little friends out. They're called the Young Moguls. It's a bunch of them, and they're about your age, and they all have like multi-million-dollar businesses. And he does an award every year called the Truth Playmakers. So year before last, he honored me as one of the playmakers because I created a channel on Amazon for him to talk about stock market. So this year, she invited me to their house because he was having his like little dinner or whatever, had all the playmakers there and their parents. So I get to the house and I said, how's everything going? So, oh, it's going well. He just started to set up his employees' 401k. And I'm like, what? And she said, yeah, he has 6 employees. He's 14, y'all. He has 6 employees and they all have retirement plans. And she said, and yeah, his sister, she handles all of his books and everything within the accounting department. She's 10. So she's 10 and she handles all of his business on the accounting side, including his employees' 401k plan. So I said all that to say, you may be thinking of something, you thinking nobody's gonna listen to me, or I don't really know how this is gonna work. All you gotta do is raise your hand and say, I got an idea I wanna bring to life. Now what I will tell you is that Christian is very focused. He plays football, but he's very focused. When it comes to stock, he talks to thousands and thousands of people all the time, but he spends a lot of time studying stocks. So that's why he's able to talk about stocks all the time. So being an entrepreneur, it's gonna take you being committed. And so you may have to give up going, hanging out with your girls, hanging out with the boys, you may not be able to go skating tonight, to the movies. You may have to give up some things. But by the time he graduates high school, right now, he could quit school right now and not have to worry about money at all. He's a millionaire. He's 14 years old. And if you saw him, he looks like Dr. Martin Luther King. Like everybody tells him that because he looks just like Dr. Martin Luther King. And he's so humble and he's so nice, but he could quit school and never work a day in his life because he's already a millionaire at 14. And he's been studying. And I asked his mom, I said, how did he get started in stocks? She said, I used to listen to motivational stuff in my car all the time when he was little. Like he was like a little kid. She was in the military. She just retired. And she said he started to hear people talk about motivational stuff over and over. And I took him to a conference with me because I had to, because I was a single parent. He went to the conference and he fell in love with stocks. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And then he started studying stocks because he fell in love with stocks. So I share that story with you to say you can do anything your mind can really conceive of, like for real. Like, who would have known that I would have had, I went to my friends, I was like, you ever seen anybody with a fat dog, right? And they were laughing, they were like, nah. And I was like, yeah, okay, me neither. But I invented that doll. And then people, if you go to Facebook, the dolls have their own I don't even have a fan club. The dolls have their own fan club, Big Beautiful Doll fan club on Facebook. The guy lives in Texas, is a guy. It's a guy who started the fan club. He lives in Texas. He loved those dolls, and he created a whole fan club of people just like him who love those dolls. They have their own fan club. And right now, they would be 22 years old if they were humans, because that's how long it's been since I created them. And people still buy them. They still love them. So, anytime you think of something that you may want to do, and listen, let me just say this, because this is very important. Sometimes your friends and family may not understand what you want to do. They may not even support you, but you can't stop there. You got to keep going. I don't care what it is. If you want to play ball, if you want to write a book, if you want to cook some cookies, I don't care what it is. You find the people that's going to support you in whatever you want to do, because sometimes people just don't understand your vision. And in our world, they say the worst thing in the world you could do is share a big idea with a small-minded person, and that's true. If you think about some things that you've always wanted to do, right, and you share it with your friend, like, that's not going to work. right? That's the wrong person to tell that to. That's the wrong person to tell that to. Whenever people throw up obstacles why things won't work, you don't want to talk to that person about that. That's your friend. You talk to them about whatever else y'all talk about. But when it comes to things that you want to do and you don't get support on that, you go find the people that's going to support you and you talk about that thing to those people. Because the people who don't understand your vision or what you want to do, they can't see what you see. So they can't support you the way you're going to need to be supported. That doesn't mean you give up on that thing. That means you go find the people that can support you to do that thing, whatever it is. If you want to play volleyball, I want to play volleyball. You're too short to play volleyball. Nah, not really. Listen, Muggsy Bogues played basketball. He's like my height. Everybody else is tall. Muggsy is short, but they told me he couldn't play. He's like, I'm going to show y'all I could play. And he played in the NBA for years. Am I right, Mr. Johnson?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My team the Wizards one time.
I see there you go. And he's short like me. But he played in the NBA, making a lot of money, having a lot of fun, doing the thing that he loves. So don't let people tell you what you cannot do. If you could think about it, you can bring it about. Everything in this room was an idea that somebody had. Every single thing in here. The carpet on the floor, the green paint on the wall, the TV cameras right there, everything. The clothes you got on, somebody thought about that. The mask we got on our face, somebody thought about that. They was like, you know what, I'm going to make this mask. I don't know what I'm going to do with it just yet, but I'm going to make this mask. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to pause right there. If you guys got questions, please don't hesitate to ask. No question is a stupid question, and don't be afraid to ask. That's the first thing about being an entrepreneur and being a podcast. You got to step out there on faith and just know that I'm going to ask this question. I don't care what nobody thinks. All right, I'm going to pause it right there. Anybody have any questions? Please remember, no question is a bad question.
What inspired you to do what you're doing right now?
So I was born in Georgia, but I was raised in Newark, New Jersey. And we grew up in the hood. Like my brother and I, we grew up in the hood. So we're a little rough around the edges. But I got engaged to this guy, and his father was a millionaire. And I went to go visit him in Boston. And when I went to go visit him, I was like, oh my God, I did not know black people live like this, right? And he sent us away on a trip to Jamaica. He paid for us to go on a trip to Jamaica. That's Zay's uncle, actually, as a matter of fact, that I was engaged to. And he sent us to Jamaica on a trip. And his uncle and I had a daughter, and my daughter was about 3 years old. And then he took us up to his house in New Hampshire. His dad did. And when we went to New Hampshire, it was a house in the middle of the woods, and I was like, I really didn't know black people live like this. Like I didn't know. When they had the house in Boston, he had a mansion, and it had a swimming pool in the middle of the house, and it had his name and towel in the pool. So that man was that was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He was a boxer. He passed away in March, and but he was my inspiration. And I'm tearing up right now because I'm getting a little choked because he and I bumped heads a lot. And I never got a chance to tell him that he was my inspiration for wanting to have this life that I didn't know we could have as black people. He was that inspiration. And I remember seeing him on TV. You guys don't remember this because you weren't born, but he used to do an Ever Ready commercial, and he'd be like, I dare you to knock this battery off my shoulder. And his son is very, very humble. Like he's super, like if you met him, you wouldn't know who he was because he's so humble. He don't like the life, so he never lived in that life. I wanted the life when I was exposed to it. I was like, I want to live like that, So that was my inspiration. He was my first inspiration for like wanting to have this life that I didn't know I could have. I went to Montclair State College. That was my first time really leaving my hood. When I went to Montclair is a very upscale town in New Jersey. And that's where a lot of the people that work in New York on like NBC TV, all the magazines, because New York is the publishing capital of the world. And so a lot of those people lived in Montclair, and I was exposed to that, but I wasn't exposed to real money until I met my daughter's dad. And that's when I realized I want to live like that. And I've been on that journey since my daughter was about 2 years old.
What was your main goal when you first started your business?
My main goal, honestly, was to make money, and that's an interesting question because when we started the company, all I wanted to do was get rich. So when I told my partner, I was like, yeah, I want to be rich because I wanted to be rich. And so, people started putting us on TV shows, and people started interviewing us. And so we had a motto for the doll company because we were plus size, like I am now. I was bigger, but our motto was don't let what you weigh stand in your way, right? That was the motto. And people would interview us and they would write about us in magazines, and we would always say that, well, our motto is don't let what you weigh stand in your way, to the point I started to feel like I was a fraud, because I was like, I started this business because I wanted to make money. I didn't care what we weighed. That's what I was thinking. I don't care what we weighed. I want to make some money. So my first motivation was to make money and to make a lot of it. But then as I got older and my daughter started to grow up, I decided, you know what, I want to create a business that's going to be a legacy for my daughter and my granddaughter. So now, when I fast forward to probably like 15 years ago, my mission changed, my vision changed, and it was all about building a legacy business. So to give you an idea what a legacy business is, anybody heard of Chase Bank before? Chase was a man, right? He was a man that lived like in the 1800s, and he was a smart man, and he started a business. And so to this day, J.P. Morgan and Chase and Rockefeller, these are all men. So their legacies have outlived them by hundreds of years. That's my new goal. So that's the new goal right now, to have my legacy outlive me, just like Chase did.
Hello? Oh. Do you have any tips for networking?
Say that again?
Do you have any tips for networking?
Oh yeah, so networking. I gotta tell y'all, I'm not big on small talk. So when you go to networking, you normally go there, you take some business cards, you pass out your cards, and you talk to people that they really don't care about what you're saying most of the time, and you really don't care about what they're saying. So, but it's important. It's important to get out there and share your information with people, share who you are with people. I'm one of those people, I like small, intimate networking groups. I like groups where I can actually have a conversation with people. But when you're trying to do something, you definitely have to get out there and share what you're doing with people. Now, I will say this, if you have something that has intellectual property attached to it, which means that, I might not want to share just yet because it's not protected, you got to be a little bit careful, because you can share a good idea with a smart person and they can run with it before you get it off the ground. That has happened before, and so you want to be careful about that. But network and let people know what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to start a business, trying to find money for your business, you're trying to go to college, you want to go to LSU, wherever you want to do, let somebody know, because 9 times out of 10, somebody knows somebody that can help you get to where you want to go. Somebody knows somebody. It used to be that we were 6 degrees of separation. Now we're about 1.5, which means that somebody that knows somebody that can get you to the next level.
What was the hardest or biggest risk you took?
Ooh. So the hardest part about starting my business was, so my daughter was like, when I started the doll company, she was 8 years old, and I was working at Verizon making a lot of money. And when I had that idea, I thought I was going to be rich, so I quit my job. And I quit my job. I didn't have any money. I just quit. I was like, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to do this business. And my daughter got sick, and I didn't have any insurance coverage. And so I had to get a paper route. And I got a paper route delivering papers during like 3 o'clock in the morning. So my boyfriend, he's my husband now, but he's my boyfriend at the time. He would work till 11 o'clock at night. He would come home, he would sleep for a few hours, and at 3 o'clock we would get up and go pick my papers up from the paper depot and go deliver papers. Now, I wouldn't tell anybody to do that. That was crazy. I was a single parent, and that was nuts. But that was risky, because there were times when I thought they were gonna repossess my truck, like, oh my God, they're gonna repossess my truck. I would hear a noise in the middle of the night, and I would get up and just look out the window to make sure my truck was still there. So that was a big risk for me. But over the years, would I have done it a little bit different? Yeah, I would have. But it has made me who I was, because I can tell people when they come to me with an idea, you can't come to me with any BS, because I had a paper route. Like a 7-year-old, I was slinging papers. So you can't come to me making all these, I thought, I wish. You can't do that, because I had a paper route. So it has made me been able to talk to people on a real level and say, you know what, I get what you're saying, but you're making excuses right now. So that was my biggest risk.
What challenges did you have to overcome at the beginning of your journey?
Having no money. Having absolutely no money. I had bad credit. I had this baby that I had to take care of. My boyfriend and I had broke up, so I wasn't going to be rich through his family. I had to make my own way. So, but that didn't stop me. So what I did, because I didn't have any money, I spent a year on Wall Street talking to investors, trying to figure out how to raise capital for this company that did not even have a market, because at that time there were no plus size dolls on the market. Every doll looked like Barbie, or they looked like Cabbage Patch, or they looked like the Bratz, but no doll looked like a size 14 woman. None. There were none on the market. So we invented the first one. So I spent a year just trying to figure out how to get this money, and gratefully and thankfully, one of my ex-boyfriends, his mother gave me $11,000 to start the company. My brother gave me his American Express. My mom gave me some money. My uncle gave me some money. One of my good friends gave me $500, and 3 of my friends pre-ordered the doll, and that gave me the capital to jumpstart the business, and that's how I got started.
When you first got like your idea to do the business, how did you bring it off the ground?
So the first thing we did was we went to a toy store and we looked at all these doll manufacturers, because we were like, okay, we got to find somebody to help us with this doll. We looked for a black doll manufacturer because we figured, well, we're black, so we're going to look for a black doll manufacturer. Couldn't find one. And then we went to a store in New York called FAO Schwartz. It's not around anymore, but back then it was a real high-priced store in New York, really high price. Like if you had money, that's what, like Beyonce would shop at FAO Schwartz. So we went to FAO Schwartz and we found a doll over there, and it was a beautiful doll, and it had a company name on the side of it, and it was called Integrity Toys. And so we called that company. The guy just happened to live in Maryland, and we called him and said, listen, we got this idea for this doll. And he said, we'll drive down to Maryland. We said, okay. So we jumped in the car. So Maryland is about 3 hours away from Jersey. We jumped in our car, we drove to Maryland. We spent 8 hours in his doll warehouse. We had no food for 8 hours. He gave us some water, and we took notes for 8 hours, like this. And we just took notes all that time. And then we drove back home, still didn't eat until we got back to Jersey. Then we ate. So that's how we got started. And then from there, we went to, every year in February at Jacob Javits, there's this convention called the Toy Fair. Any kind of toy you think you want, the ones you've never seen before, they're at Toy Fair. But it's not open to the public. It's only open to industry professionals. So we went to Toy Fair because we had a business card that said we were doll manufacturers. We went there looking for a manufacturing company. And we went there was a woman who had a stuffed animal that she had invented. And she was like, you guys need to go and talk to this company around the corner. They do what's called short runs. So a short run is when you don't have to get like thousands and thousands done at a time. Like if you have a product, sometimes the company will require you to do thousands and thousands at a time. So she said, go talk to this company. They do what's called a short run. So we went to go talk to the company, and that became our manufacturer. And they are located in Hong Kong. And so they love what we were doing. They told us, you know what, you're not going to have to pay the price for the mold. We're going to partner with you guys, which saved us $15,000 right off the gate, because had we had to get that mold done, which is called an injection mold, that alone would have been $15,000. But they said, we're going to make the molds for you, and you just send us the wax, and we'll make the dolls for you. Okay, one more question. Okay, I can take one more question.
Why did you choose the business that you chose?
God gave it to me. Like I was sitting at work one day, bored out of my mind, and he just gave me this idea for this doll. I have, it's people ask me that all the time, and I don't know. He gives me a lot of great ideas. Let me just say that he gives me too many great ideas, and a lot of times when he gives them to me, I try to run with them. But it was just the idea that he gave me while I was sitting at work one day, and I asked my friend, and I didn't know she even collected dolls. And when she showed me the doll that she had just paid like $250 for, I was like, oh, we're gonna be rich. And I just ran with that business. So, I want to thank you all for just, take some time to be here with me today, asking me questions. And if you want to reach out to me, I'll leave my information with Mr. Johnson. You guys can always reach out to me. If you got a business question, you want to start a podcast, I'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much.